Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So this evening, almost a week later than I promised to you, I had intended to do this by last Friday, and I'm sorry that I didn't manage to get a video up. But today I'm going to look at the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate palette in Rose Cashmere. There are 4 of these palettes in theory, and I think they were all released in the United States quite some time ago. I saw YouTube reviews of them in my own mind well before lockdown happened in March, and I kept looking out for them over here where we often get releases a few weeks, well, we usually get releases a few weeks after the States. They just didn't appear. And as I speak, I've only been able to source 2 out of the 4 here in the UK, the 2 lightest palettes. Now, if you're a Tom Ford lover, you'll know that he's no longer anything to do with it, but Tom Ford, the brand, come out with these larger palettes at least once a year. This is one of the previous ones. They've all been in the white covering up till now, and they've generally contained a highlight, a blush, and 4 eyeshadow colours. This is my kind of most popular, with me, one of the previous ones, which is the Solar Exposure 03. And you can see that previously they haven't been the wet and dry formula. They've been the powder formula with the typical quad containing 1 glitter and 3 other shadows. I really like these palettes because they give a whole look, more or less, with your blusher and your highlight. Very useful for travel, which in normal circumstances I do quite a lot, not so much at the moment. So when I heard that these ones were coming out with wet and dry formulation for the eyeshadows, because I think that's by far the best formulation now, particularly of latter years when the ordinary powder shadows haven't been, I don't think, quite as high quality as they were originally in Tom Ford, Charlotte Tilbury's day when she used to work for them. But the wet and dry is a beautiful formulation. So I was very excited. The concept is slightly different because, as the title says, Shade and Illuminate, they've gone for a contouring product and a highlighter and left out the blush. And they have gathered the various colour options into intensities. So this one, which is called Rose Cashmere, is described as intensity 0.5. So it's the lightest coloured, certainly illuminating products and actually eye products. So for fair-skinned only. And having, looked at the various YouTube videos and blog reviews, I thought this was probably one that I would get, although it was not the most unusual. You can see the colour is a bit deeper in real life than it's showing up on the monitor, but it is a pale selection. In truth, I am not a great bronzer wearer. I don't do a whole lot of contouring, and I have a couple of bronzers that I like to use that are cool toned and not too pigmented. So the addition of a bronzer subtracting a blush is not the greatest for me. Having said that, if we look at the bronzer here, it's quite pale. You can barely see that actually on my hand. Let's see if it, there, bit better there. So it's a very goldeny but not too pigmented bronzer that I would actually use, but it's not going to suit people with darker toned skin, because although you can build it up a certain amount, there are limitations. Now, equally, you know that I am a highlighter buff. I love a highlighter, can't have too many of them, And I like them good and strong and stroby. I like to be seen from outer space on the highlight front, and I use them in a variety of ways. This one, I have to say, it's a lovely texture, very pigmented, a little too warm and yellowy for me to perfectly love as a highlighter, but it is a beautiful one. And I'll come to what I've been doing with it in a moment. So the attraction to me really was the 4 eyeshadow colours. And you can see immediately that this taupey gold selection is very, very typical Tom Ford stuff. And you may look at it as I did and think immediately of a famous Tom Ford quad, which is not that dissimilar in the shades, and that's good old Nude Dip. If we knock out the much darker brown, you'll see there's quite a similarity in the tonal palette of the other 3. So again, if you've already got Nude Dip, this may not be a huge attraction to you. I love these 3 shades. I've been using them. This one in particular, a most beautiful rosy gold taupe is what I'd say. These are all soft and gorgeous. So there's the light one. Just lovely next to the highlighter. The beautiful rose bronze one. And then a very, very wearable brown that's got a little bit of shimmer, but not as much as the other 2. So a good transition shade. Now, if you're interested, those colours are different from Nude Dip. There we've got the lightest, my favourite of the Nude Dip colours, which is also pinky. Bit lighter. I think it looks a lot lighter actually on the eyelid, but swatched next, not so much. And you can see that the brown is a lot more kind of grey taupe and more shimmery. I think the brown here is more useful if you just want to work your eye from one palette, because it's a decent transition colour on its own. Now, I would also say that what I've been doing, because I don't love this, the yellowness of this highlighter as a highlighter, is I've just been bunging it on my eyes. It's a perfectly good eyeshadow, and it's a really, really pretty summery eyeshadow. Now, the selling point for me of this palette, for reasons I will shortly explain, is this pink rose of the Rose Cashmere. I don't love pink eyeshadows, and you can see this is full on coral, deeply pigmented with a slightly gold sheen. Now, I'm sure some people will love that as an eyeshadow, make blue eyes or green eyes pop. I'm not so keen on my eyes, although it can be blended down with the other shades, particularly these 2. But that one for me works perfectly as a blush. Small brush into that pan. Although it's a small pan, you get decent amounts of product, even in the eyeshadow shades of a Tom Ford palette. And that works perfectly, very pigmented as a blush. So the reality is, I don't let myself be hidebound by what they are supposed to represent. All of these shades, apart from that coral, I use as eyeshadow shades. Can use this as a contour, can use this as my highlighter. To be honest, you could use that as your highlighter if you wanted, and you've got a blush in the palette. So for me, the big plus of this palette, which costs a whopping £98, so you've got to love it to buy it, and you've got to think you're going to get a decent amount of use out of it to buy it. But it would contain, for a fair-skinned woman, pretty much everything you need, apart from your foundation, your mascara and a lip product, to do your full face And so that's a real selling point to me that makes it very worthwhile, because I do like these palettes. So the cons, obviously the price. If you've got nude dip, you might have misgivings about shelling out for another palette which contains not dissimilar eye colours, although they're really useful ones. If you're darker skinned, even medium skinned, to be honest, that bronzer is not going to work as a bronzer or contour product. But as I say, if you're looking for an all-round palette and you're fair-skinned, this is just gorgeous. I'm very happy with it. You'll see that I have got my hands on another one. It's the second in the series, so Intensity 2, Moonlit Violet. I'm going to talk about it in another video because I'm running out of time, but there's a sneak preview. It's another one that is absolutely gorgeous. But I'll talk a bit more about the pros and cons of this one, whether it might be for you, in a video that I really, really hope to do tomorrow or Saturday, before I finish work for the summer. So hope that's useful for those of you who are interested in the Tom Ford releases. I think the Moonlit Violet is sold out on the Tom Ford website, and Selfridges never had it. Rose Cashmere was on the Tom Ford website in the UK when I last looked. Harrods has Moonlit Violet. That's where I got mine from. Had it when I last looked, which was last night. I'm not sure about Rose Cashmere. I got mine from Selfridges a couple of weeks ago, and it may have run out, but I suspect they'll get some more stock in, or they might have it in person. I bought mine online. So good luck if you're hunting. Anyone who discovers the other two, I'm particularly interested in the darkest one actually, for one of the eyeshadows. If any of you manage to hunt it down here in the UK or on a foreign website that we have access through, because I've looked and not been able to import these from Nordstrom, for example, in the US. They're just barred from coming to the UK. Do let me know in the comments, and I'll hope to come back to you with Moonlit Violet very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.